Language Foundations Vocabulary Flashcards, helping you achieve understanding.
Showing by example. An item of information that is typical of a class or group. Artwork that helps make something clear or attractive. A visual representation, a picture or diagram, that is used to make some subject more pleasing or easier to understand. Showing by example. A representational or typifying form or model. A representative form or pattern. I profited from his example. Something to be imitated. An occurrence of something. But there is always the famous example of the Smiths. An item of information that is typical of a class or group. This patient provides a typical example of the syndrome. Punishment intended as a warning to others. They decided to make an example of him. A task performed or problem solved in order to develop skill or understanding. You must work the examples at the end of each chapter in the textbook. An occurrence of something. Another instance occurred yesterday. Clarify by giving an example of. An item of information that is typical of a class or group. An item of information that is typical of a class or group. An advocate who represents someone else's policy or purpose. A member of the United States House of Representatives. A person who represents others. Being or characteristic of government by representation in which citizens exercise power through elected officers and representatives. Representative government is defined by Abraham Lincoln as government of the people, by the people, for the people. Serving to represent or typify. Representative moviegoers. Standing for something else. The bald eagle is representative of the United States. Give an exhibition of to an interested audience. We will demo the new software in Washington. A visual presentation showing how something works. The lecture was accompanied by dramatic demonstrations. Proof by a process of argument or a series of proposition proving an asserted conclusion. A visual presentation showing how something works. The lecture was accompanied by dramatic demonstrations. A show or display, the act of presenting something to sight or view. He gave the customer a demonstration. A public display of group feelings, usually of a political nature. There were violent demonstrations against the war. A show of military force or preparedness. He confused the enemy with feints and demonstrations. A message received and understood. Communication theory, a numerical measure of the uncertainty of an outcome. The signal contained thousands of bits of information. A collection of facts from which conclusions may be drawn. Formal accusation of a crime. Knowledge acquired through study or experience or instruction. Photographs or other visual representations in a printed publication. The publisher was responsible for all the artwork in the book. Photographs or other visual representations in a printed publication. Photographs or other visual representations in a printed publication. The drawings and photographs in the layout of a book. The products of human creativity, works of art collectively. An art exhibition. The creation of beautiful or significant things. Art does not need to be innovative to be good. A superior skill that you can learn by study and practice and observation. The art of conversation. Photographs or other visual representations in a printed publication. The publisher was responsible for all the artwork in the book. A presentation to the mind in the form of an idea or image. The state of serving as an official and authorized delegate or agent. A performance of a play. A body of legislators that serve in behalf of some constituency. A congressional vacancy occurred in the representation from California. A creation that is a visual or tangible rendering of someone or something. A factual statement made by one party in order to induce another party to enter into a contract. The sales contract contains several representations by the vendor. An activity that stands as an equivalent of something or results in an equivalent. A statement of facts and reasons made in appealing or protesting. Certain representations were made concerning police brutality. The act of representing. Standing in for someone or some group and speaking with authority in their behalf. The right of being represented by delegates who have a voice in some legislative body. A formal written defense of something you believe in strongly. A poor example. It was an apology for a meal. An expression of regret at having caused trouble for someone. He wrote a letter of apology to the hostess. An example that is used to justify similar occurrences at a later time. A deliberate act of omission. With the exception of the children, everyone was told the news. An instance that does not conform to a rule or generalization. All her children were brilliant. The only exception was her last child. Grounds for adverse criticism. His authority is beyond exception. A defense of some offensive behavior or some failure to keep a promise, etc. He kept finding excuses to stay. Excuse, overlook, or make allowances for, be lenient with. Excuse someone's behavior. Ask for permission to be released from an engagement. Serve as a reason or cause or justification of. Your need to sleep late does not excuse your late arrival at work. Accept an excuse for. Please excuse my dirty hands. Grant exemption or release to. Please excuse me from this class. Defend, explain, clear away, or make excuses for by reasoning. A poor example. A poor excuse for an automobile. A note explaining an absence. He had to get his mother to write an excuse for him. Civil law. A law established by following earlier judicial decisions. A system of jurisprudence based on judicial precedents rather than statutory laws. An example that is used to justify similar occurrences at a later time. A subject mentioned earlier, proceeding in time. Proceeding in time, order, or significance. The fifth and highest element after air and earth and fire and water was believed to be the substance composing all heavenly bodies. The most typical example or representative of a type. The purest and most concentrated essence of something. Take a sample of. Items selected at random from a population and used to test hypotheses about the population. All are part of a natural object that is collected and preserved as an example of its class. A small part of something intended as representative of the whole. A bit of tissue or blood or urine that is taken for diagnostic purposes. They collected a urine specimen for urinalysis. An example regarded as typical of its class. A diagram or picture illustrating textual material. A Libyan terrorist group organized in 1995 and aligned with Al-Qaeda seeks to radicalize the Libyan government, attempted to assassinate Gaddafi. Mediterranean tree widely cultivated for its edible fruit. Fleshy sweet pear-shaped yellowish or purple multiple fruit eaten fresh or preserved or dried. One of the elements that collectively form a system of numeration. Judged to be probable. Be or play a part of or in. Elections figure prominently in every government program. A diagram or picture illustrating textual material. A decorative or artistic work. The property possessed by a sum or total or indefinite quantity of units or individuals. The figure was about 1,000. A well-known or notable person. She is an important figure in modern music. Alternative names for the body of a human being. Imagine. Conceive of. See in one's mind. Language used in a figurative or non-literal sense. Make a mathematical calculation or computation. A combination of points and lines and planes that form a visible palpable shape. A model of a bodily form, especially of a person. He made a figure of Santa Claus. An amount of money expressed numerically. A figure of $17 was suggested. A predetermined set of movements in dancing or skating. She made the best score on compulsory figures. A unitary percept having structure and coherence that is the object of attention and that stands out against a ground. The impression produced by a person. He cut a fine figure. Understand. He didn't figure her. Illustrations used to decorate or explain a text. Graphic art consisting of an artistic composition made by applying paints to a surface. His pictures hang in the Louvre. A visual representation of an object or scene or person or abstraction produced on a surface. They showed us the pictures of their wedding. A situation treated as an observable object. The political picture is favorable. Show in, or as in, a picture. Illustrations used to decorate or explain a text. The dictionary had many pictures. A form of entertainment that enacts a story by sound and a sequence of images giving the illusion of continuous movement. A graphic or vivid verbal description. Too often the narrative was interrupted by long word pictures. A clear and telling mental image. He described his mental picture of his assailant. Imagine. Conceive of. See in one's mind. The visible part of a television transmission. They could still receive the sound but the picture was gone. A representation of a person or scene in the form of a print or transparent slide or in digital format. A typical example of some state or quality. The very picture of a modern general. Baseball. Base consisting of a rubber slab where the batter stands. It must be touched by a base runner in order to score. A metal sheathing of uniform thickness, such as the shield attached to an artillery piece to protect the gunners. A flat sheet of metal or glass on which a photographic image can be recorded. A shallow receptacle for collection in church. The quantity contained in a plate. A dental appliance that artificially replaces missing teeth. A rigid layer of the Earth's crust that is believed to drift slowly. A full-page illustration, usually on slick paper. A main course served on a plate. A vegetable plate. Any flat plate-like body structure or part. A sheet of metal or wood or glass or plastic. Coat with a layer of metal. Plate spoons with silver. Dish on which food is served or from which food is eaten. Structural member consisting of a horizontal beam that provides bearing and anchorage. The positively charged electrode in a vacuum tube. The thin under portion of the forequarter. Brief description accompanying an illustration. Translation of foreign dialogue of a movie or TV program, usually displayed at the bottom of the screen. Provide with a caption, as of a photograph or a drawing. Taking exception, especially a quibble based on a captious argument. A mere caption unworthy of a reply. Brief description accompanying an illustration. A story about mythical or supernatural beings or events.
Become our student and get access to effective and free educational materials. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to become a part of our growing YouTube community and to learn English effectively.